So when we talk about the frog, the morphology is quite simple. The skin is smooth and slippery due to the presence of mucus. The color of dorsal side of the body is generally olive green with dark irregular spots. On the ventral side, the skin is uniformly pale yellow. The frog never drinks water. It never drinks water actually, but it absorbs through the skin. When you talk about the hind limbs of the frog, it does have 5 digits actually, and they are larger and muscular than the forelimbs and in 4 digits. Feet also have a wave digit that helps in swimming. They exhibit actually sexual dimorphism, that is, male and female are distinct actually. Male frogs can be distinguished by the presence of sound producing vocal sacs and also a copulatory band on the first digit of the fourth limb, of which limbs of the forelimb and the first digit actually, and they are absent in the female frogs. When we talk about the systems of the frog, there are several systems: digestive system, respiratory system, blood vascular system, excretory system, nervous system, and the reproductive system actually. When we talk about the digestive system consists of alimentary canals and digestive glands actually. Heart, esophagus, liver, stomach, gallbladder, lungs, fat bodies, kidneys, intestine, rectum, urinary bladder, cloaca, ureter, cloacal aperture. Several folds actually we can see. The alimentary canal is short. It does have short alimentary canal because they are carnivore actually. Hence, the length of intestine is reduced. The mouth is open to the buccal cavity that leads to the esophagus through the pharynx actually. The mouth of frogs opens into the buccal cavity that leads to the esophagus through the pharynx actually. Esophagus is also a short tube that opens into the stomach actually, which in turn continues at intestine, rectum, finally opens outside the cloaca. When you talk about the liver secretes bile and it is stored in the gallbladder. Liver secretes what? Liver secretes the bile and that is stored in the gallbladder. The pancreas is a digestive gland that produces what? Pancreatic juices containing different digestive enzymes. When you talk about the food is captured by the bilobe tongue. Digestive or digestions of the food takes place by the action of acial and gastric juices secreted from the walls of the stomach. The partially digested food that is known as chyme is passed from the stomach to the first part of the intestine, the duodenum. The duodenum receives the bile from the gallbladder and the pancreas juices from the pancreatic to the common bile duct. When you talk about the bile emulsifies fat and the pancreatic juices digest the carbohydrate and protein. So there are different functions of different things. When you talk about bile emulsifies fat. When you talk about the pancreatic juices, they digest the carbohydrate and fats, proteins. So carbohydrates and proteins, not fats actually. Bile emulsifies fat and the pancreatic juices digest carbohydrate and proteins. Final digestion takes place in the intestine. Final digestion takes place where? It takes place in the intestine. Digestive food is absorbed by the numerous finger-like folds in the inner wall of the intestine called villi and macrovilli. The undigested solid waste moves into the rectum and passes out through cloaca. When you talk about the respiratory system, frogs respire on land in the water by two different methods. In water, skin acts as aquatic respiratory organ that is known as cutaneous respiration, and dissolved oxygen in the water is exchanged through the skin by diffusion. On the land, the buccal cavity, skin, and the lungs act as the respiratory organ. When we talk about the land, the buccal cavity, skin, and lungs. What things? Buccal cavity, skin, and lungs. Buccal cavity, skin, and lungs. They act as respiratory organs. When you talk about uh, the water, what happens? It is exchange. Skin is acts as aquatic respiratory organ actually, and the different types of respirations is shown by the frog. The respiration by lungs is also known as pulmonary respiration, and the lungs are particularly of frogs are elongated pink-colored sac-like structures present in the upper of the part of the trunk region that is known as thorax. They are entrance through the nostrils of the buccal cavity and then to the lungs. During estivation and hibernation, gases exchange takes place through the skin. Gases exchange takes place through what? Through the skin. When you talk about the blood vascular system, the blood vascular system of the frog is well developed, particularly close type. They have lymphatic system also. And when you talk about the structures of the frog, there is a triangular structure that is known as sinus venosus that joins the right atrium, and it receives blood through the major veins of the vena cava. It receives blood through the major veins called vena cava. The ventricle opens into a sac-like conus arteriosus. Ventricles, they open where? They open into a sac-like conus arteriosus on the ventral side of the heart. The blood from the heart is carried to all parts of the body by the arterial system. The veins collected blood from the different parts of the body to the heart and forms the venous system. A special venous connection between the liver and the intestine, as well as the kidney and the lower parts of the body, are present in frogs. The former called hepatic portal system and the later is known as renal portal system. So one thing we have to know about that RBCs are nucleated. The RBCs of frogs are nucleated. In humans they are not nucleated actually, but in frogs they are nucleated and they contain regular pigment that is known as hemoglobin. The Lymphatic system consists of lymph channels, and lymph nodes. The lymph is differentiated from blood. It lacks free proteins and RBC. It lacks free proteins and RBC. The circulation of blood is achieved by the pumping action of the heart, muscular heart. So the blood carries nutrients, gases, waters to the respective sites during their circulation.